black woman came in to clean and saw a crying baby. When the millionaire saw his son calm down, he changed, but not in the way you might think. "Where is my family's gold signet ring?" The thunderous voice of real estate mogul Nathaniel Blackwood shook the crystal glasses in his $50 million Manhattan penthouse. His cold blue eyes swept across every surface of the 4,000 square foot space until they landed on Jasmine Rodriguez, who was carefully polishing the marble countertops in his designer kitchen. The 27-year-old woman from Kingston, Jamaica, slowly set down her microfiber cloth. 4 years of working for elite domestic services had taught her to recognize this tone, the one that meant trouble was coming. "I haven't seen any ring, Mr. Blackwood," Jasmine replied steadily, though her heart began to race. "Of course you haven't seen it." Nathaniel stalked closer, his 6 feet 3 inches frame casting a shadow over her. "That ring has been in my family for 5 generations. Worth $125,000. And you were the only person in my master suite today." Jasmine kept her expression neutral, but inside her mind was racing. She'd learned to be careful around wealthy clients, especially ones with reputations like Nathaniel's. Before accepting any job, she always researched her employers thoroughly, a habit from her previous life that had served her well. "Sir, I can show you everything in my bag if that helps." "You'll be showing the police everything in your bag." Nathaniel cut her off, his phone already in his hand. "I should have known better than to let your kind into my private quarters. People like you always think successful families are easy marks. Your kind. People like you." The words landed like physical blows. Jasmine had heard variations of this language before, but something about Nathaniel's tone was particularly venomous. She forced herself to remain calm, filing away every word for later. "What exactly do you mean by people like me, Mr. Blackwood?" she asked quietly. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "Don't play games with me. Domestic help who think they can walk into someone's home and help themselves to family heirlooms. Workers who forget their place." But before the confrontation could escalate further, a desperate wailing filled the penthouse. The sound was coming from the nursery. Baby Gabriel, Nathaniel's 9-month-old son, crying with an intensity that made Jasmine's maternal instincts surge. "Your baby needs attention," she observed. Nathaniel barely spared a glance toward the nursery. "The nanny deals with baby problems. I deal with theft problems. Security will be here shortly." The crying grew more desperate, and Jasmine recognized something deeply wrong in those sounds. This wasn't ordinary crying. This was distress. Against every rule of professional cleaning protocol, Jasmine walked toward the nursery. "Stop right there," Nathaniel commanded. "You're not going anywhere near my son." But Jasmine was already looking into the nursery, and what she found broke her heart. Baby Gabriel was alone in his crib, his diaper soaked through, his face red from crying for what seemed like hours. An empty bottle lay beside him, and the room felt stifling hot. "Oh, sweet baby," Jasmine whispered, her voice automatically shifting to the gentle patois her grandmother had used. "Nobody's taking care of you, are they?" Drawing on years of caring for her younger cousins in Spanish Town, Jasmine quickly changed Gabriel's diaper, prepared a fresh bottle, and adjusted the room temperature. When she finally lifted him into her arms, humming a soft lullaby, something beautiful happened. If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We are just a small channel trying to grow. And do not forget to comment where you're watching from. Thank you, and back to our video. Gabriel's cries stopped instantly. His small body relaxed into her embrace, his brown eyes looking up at her with relief. He made soft cooing sounds, his tiny hand gripping her uniform as if he'd finally found safety. "There we go, precious one," Jasmine murmured. "Someone forgot about you, but you're safe now." "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Nathaniel's voice exploded from the doorway. "He was in distress, sir. His diaper was soaked. He needed feeding. Put my son down immediately." Reluctantly, Jasmine transferred Gabriel to his father's arms. The change was instantaneous and heartbreaking. The moment Nathaniel took him, Gabriel erupted into screams, his little body going rigid, reaching desperately back toward Jasmine. Nathaniel tried everything, bouncing, walking, even raising his voice, but Gabriel only became more hysterical. Sweat broke out across Nathaniel's forehead as his son seemed to reject him completely. "I don't understand this," Nathaniel shouted over the wailing. "He was completely silent with you." "Babies are very sensitive to emotional energy," Jasmine explained. "They can sense anger, tension, fear. When adults are agitated, it makes babies feel unsafe." Nathaniel stared at her with a mixture of frustration and grudging surprise. How convenient. The same person who steals family heirlooms also happens to be a baby expert. What a perfectly crafted story. Something shifted in Jasmine's demeanor. She'd spent 4 years enduring suspicious stares and careful monitoring. But this was different. This was a direct attack on her character, and she wasn't going to accept it quietly. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice cutting through Gabriel's cries with unexpected authority. "I want you to call security right now. Call the police. Call anyone you want." Nathaniel blinked, clearly not expecting this response. "What? Call them all. I want a complete investigation. Check every security camera. Review every access log. Examine every inch of this penthouse." There was something in her tone that gave Nathaniel pause. Jasmine wasn't pleading or making excuses. She was demanding an investigation with the confidence of someone who had nothing to hide. "Because when they find your ring," Jasmine continued, "and they will find it, you're going to realize that you've made a very serious mistake." The certainty in her voice was unsettling. Nathaniel found himself studying her more carefully. Who was this cleaning woman who spoke with such confidence? "And Mr. Blackwood," Jasmine added, gathering her cleaning supplies with deliberate precision, "I suggest you think very carefully about the security cameras in this building. They record everything that happens in the hallways, elevators, and parking areas." "What's that supposed to mean?" Jasmine paused at the doorway, Gabriel still screaming in his father's arms. "It means the truth always comes out. Always." As she walked toward the elevator, Nathaniel was left standing in his penthouse, holding his inconsolable son, with the uncomfortable feeling that he had just made an enemy of someone far more dangerous than he'd realized. What Nathaniel didn't know was that Jasmine Rodriguez wasn't just a cleaning lady. She was a woman with secrets, connections, and a very particular set of skills that made her uniquely qualified to seek justice when it was needed. And he had just given her every reason to use them. What do you think Jasmine is planning? Will Nathaniel find his ring? Share your predictions below and hit subscribe button to show your support for us. You won't believe what happens next. As soon as Jasmine stepped into the elevator, she pulled out her phone and made the first of several calls that would change everything. "Cousin Marcus," she said quietly, "I need you to contact Detective Thompson. Tell him Jasmine Santos needs a professional favor." Marcus hesitated on the other end. "Sister, are you in trouble?" "Not yet," Jasmine replied, watching the floor numbers descend. "But someone will be soon." What her wealthy employers never knew was that before moving to New York, Jasmine had worked for 3 years as a private investigator in Kingston. She wasn't just cleaning houses to pay bills. She was completing her master's degree in forensic psychology while building a network that would serve her well. Her second call was to attorney Sarah Williams at the Civil Rights Legal Foundation. "Sarah, this is Jasmine Rodriguez. Remember that conversation we had about preparing for discrimination cases? I need to activate that plan." "What happened?" "False theft accusation, racial language, hostile work environment. I have witnesses. His baby stopped crying with me but screams with him. Building security cameras will show I never left the floor. I'll start the paperwork." How detailed were his statements? "Very. You're kind. People like you. Workers who forget their place. Classic discriminatory language pattern. Perfect. We'll need this documented properly. I'm sending Detective Rodriguez from the NYPD's Civil Rights Unit to take your statement." Meanwhile, back in the penthouse, Nathaniel was discovering that his day was about to get much worse. Gabriel had finally exhausted himself and fallen asleep, but only after Nathaniel had called his emergency nanny service 3 times. When officers Maria Santos and James Liu arrived 40 minutes later, they found a very different crime scene than Nathaniel had expected. "Mr. Blackwood, we understand you're reporting a theft?" Detective Santos asked, noting the luxury of the surroundings. "Yes, my family's signet ring, worth $125,000. She was the only person who could have taken it." "She being Ms. Rodriguez, the cleaning employee?" "That's right. I want her arrested immediately." Detective Liu exchanged a glance with his partner. "Sir, before we proceed, we should mention that we've already reviewed the building's security footage." Nathaniel's confidence wavered slightly. "And the footage shows Ms. Rodriguez entering the building at 8:47 a.m. and accessing only the 47th floor. She has not left the building at any point today." "Well, she could have hidden it." "The footage also shows you leaving the building last night at 11:52 p.m. Detective Santos continued. "And the parking garage camera captured you dropping something small near your vehicle." The blood drained from Nathaniel's face. "Building maintenance found this 20 minutes ago." Detective Liu held up an evidence bag containing the gold signet ring. "It was lodged behind a concrete barrier next to your parking space." The humiliation was complete, but the consequences were just beginning. "Mr. Blackwood," Detective Santos continued, "we've also received a complaint from Ms. Rodriguez regarding discriminatory statements you allegedly made during this incident." "That's ridiculous. She's provided a detailed account of your conversation, including specific quotes. These allegations are being taken very seriously by the Civil Rights Division." Nathaniel's phone started buzzing with notifications he couldn't focus on. His mind was reeling from the realization that not only had he been completely wrong about the theft, but his words were now under legal scrutiny. Furthermore, Detective Liu added, "Building security has provided audio from the hallway security system. Many of your statements were captured clearly." This was a lie, but Nathaniel didn't know that. In his panic, he assumed the worst. "We're going to need you to come to the station for questioning regarding the discrimination complaint," Detective Santos informed him. As the police left, Nathaniel's phone exploded with calls and messages. Somehow, word was spreading about the incident. His assistant forwarded him an email from Elite Domestic Services demanding an immediate explanation for the serious allegations against their employee. Then came the call that made his blood run cold. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Jennifer Walsh from Channel 7 Investigative News. We're preparing a story about workplace discrimination and would like your comment on some very serious allegations involving racial bias toward a domestic employee. How did you get this information? We have sources within the civil rights community. Would you care to comment on the audio recordings?" Nathaniel hung up in panic. Audio recordings? How could there be recordings? What he didn't know was that Jasmine had called the news station herself, providing them with a detailed account of the incident. There were no actual recordings, but in Nathaniel's guilty conscience, he assumed the worst. Over the next 2 hours, Nathaniel received similar calls from 3 other news outlets, 2 civil rights organizations, and a reporter from the New York Times. His business partner Jonathan Reed called in a fury. "Nathaniel, what the hell is going on? I just got a call asking about discrimination lawsuits against your company. Are you under investigation? It's all a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? Channel 7 is running a story tonight about you making racist comments to a black employee. Do you understand what this could do to our business?" By evening, Nathaniel was watching his reputation crumble on live television. While there were no actual recordings being played, the news reports included detailed accounts of his statements, witness testimony about baby Gabriel's reaction to both adults, and expert commentary on discrimination in domestic work. This case highlights a troubling pattern, civil rights attorney Sarah Williams told the Channel 7 reporter. Wealthy employers often assume domestic workers are thieves simply because of their race or economic status. When their own carelessness is to blame, they rarely face consequences for false accusations. The story mentioned that Nathaniel's real estate company had been involved in previous discrimination complaints, information that Jasmine's investigator friends had uncovered within hours. As Nathaniel sat alone in his penthouse, watching his character being dissected on television, His phone rang with a call that would change everything. "Mr. Blackwood, this is Detective Rodriguez with the NYPD Civil Rights Unit. We need to schedule an interview regarding the formal complaint filed against you by Ms. Rodriguez." "What kind of complaint?" "Workplace harassment based on racial bias, false accusation, and creating a hostile work environment. These are serious charges that could result in both civil and criminal consequences." For the first time since this nightmare began, Nathaniel realized that he wasn't just dealing with a disgruntled employee. He was facing someone who had systematically documented his behavior and built a case against him with frightening efficiency. Jasmine Rodriguez had turned his moment of prejudice into a perfectly orchestrated lesson in justice. 6 months later, Dr. Jasmine Rodriguez stood before the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, addressing delegates from 193 countries about domestic worker protections worldwide. "Distinguished delegates, when I was falsely accused of theft in a Manhattan penthouse 6 months ago, I could never have imagined that this moment of injustice would lead to international legislation protecting 67 million domestic workers globally." In the gallery sat her grandmother, Rosa Rodriguez, cancer-free and glowing with pride. The discrimination settlement and her new career had covered all medical expenses and allowed Rosa to receive treatment at the best cancer center in Jamaica. The transformation in Jasmine's life had been extraordinary but carefully planned. The viral news coverage of Nathaniel's discrimination had caught the attention of the International Labor Organization, which offered her a full fellowship to complete her doctorate in social justice at Harvard University. Her strategic approach to documenting and exposing Nathaniel's behavior had become a case study in how to properly handle workplace discrimination. Law schools across the country now taught her methodology as the gold standard for civil rights advocacy. The Blackwood case proved that domestic workers don't have to silently endure discrimination, she told the UN delegates. "When we document properly, build strategic alliances, and refuse to accept injustice, we can create lasting change." Meanwhile, 3,000 miles away in Queens, Nathaniel Blackwood was loading boxes at a discount furniture warehouse, his $5,000 suits replaced by a polyester uniform and name tag. His fall had been methodical and complete, orchestrated by a network of investigators and advocates that Jasmine had activated within hours of leaving his penthouse. The Federal Bureau of Investigation had opened a civil rights investigation into his real estate practices, uncovering a pattern of housing discrimination that resulted in $75 million in federal fines and 2 years of probation. His company had collapsed under the legal pressure. His ex-wife Victoria had used the discrimination scandal to gain full custody of their daughter, arguing that Nathaniel's documented prejudice made him unfit for unsupervised visitation. Baby Gabriel had been placed with Victoria's family after a series of nannies quit, citing Nathaniel's increasingly erratic behavior. But the most devastating consequence was losing his relationship with Gabriel entirely. During court-supervised visits, Gabriel would cry whenever Nathaniel approached. The baby seemed to remember the anger and chaos that had defined their early relationship. Child psychologists noted that Gabriel showed signs of anxiety in his father's presence. Mr. Blackwood, his court-appointed therapist Dr. Michael Foster had explained, "Your son associates you with emotional instability. Children have remarkable memories for feeling unsafe." That evening, as Nathaniel ate a frozen dinner in his studio apartment, he made a decision that surprised even himself. He called the International Labor Organization in Geneva and asked to speak with Dr. Rodriguez. "This is Dr. Rodriguez." Her voice came through the phone, professional but not unkind. "Dr. Rodriguez, this is Nathaniel Blackwood. I know I have no right to contact you, but I wanted to say something." Jasmine was quiet for a moment. "I'm listening. I've been following your work with the UN. What you've accomplished. It's remarkable. And I know it started because of my ignorance and prejudice." "Mr. Blackwood, what are you trying to say?" Nathaniel's voice cracked slightly. "I ruined my son's life because of who I chose to be that day. But you've probably saved thousands of families from experiencing what we went through." Jasmine considered his words carefully. Despite everything, she often thought about baby Gabriel and wondered how he was doing. "Your son deserved better, Mr. Blackwood. All children deserve parents who see people as individuals, not stereotypes." I know that now. Too late. But I know it. There was a long pause before Jasmine spoke again. There's a program we've developed for parents who want to address their unconscious biases. It's called Breaking Generational Cycles. If you're serious about change, it might help with your custody situation. Would you consider, could I be part of that program? It's not about you, Mr. Blackwood. It's about making sure Gabriel grows up in a world where he treats all people with dignity. 1 year later, Jasmine stood in the East Room of the White House, watching as President Maria Gonzalez signed the Global Domestic Workers Protection Act into federal law. The legislation, inspired directly by Jasmine's case, established international standards for domestic worker treatment and created a global reporting system for discrimination. This law exists because one woman refused to accept that prejudice was inevitable, President Gonzalez said, gesturing toward Jasmine. Dr. Rodriguez proved that strategic courage can change the world. After the ceremony, Jasmine checked her phone to find an unexpected video message. Nathaniel appeared on her screen, holding a smiling Gabriel who was now 2 years old and speaking clearly. Dr. Rodriguez, Nathaniel said, his voice humble and genuine. Gabriel wanted to show you something he made. The toddler held up a drawing of people holding hands in different colors. This is my picture of friends, Gabriel explained proudly. Daddy says all people are the same inside. Nathaniel's voice continued. I completed the bias program last month. The court has approved supervised visits, and Gabriel is finally comfortable with me. I know I can never undo the damage I caused, but he's learning to see people differently than I did. And Dr. Rodriguez, Gabriel added, looking directly at the camera. Daddy says you helped teach him how to be nice. Jasmine smiled as she watched the video. Sometimes justice looked like international legislation and presidential ceremonies. But sometimes it looked like a little boy learning that all people deserve respect, regardless of how they look or where they come from. Sometimes it looked like a father choosing to break the cycle of prejudice before passing it on to the next generation. And sometimes, justice looked exactly like a young woman from Jamaica standing in the White House, proving that strategic thinking and moral courage can transform individual moments of discrimination into global movements for change. The baby stopped crying with me because children instinctively recognized love over judgment, Jasmine told reporters after the ceremony. Adults would do well to learn from them. Her journey from cleaning houses to changing international law proved that no one should ever underestimate the power of preparation, the strength of networks, and the unstoppable force of truth when it's strategically wielded. If this story inspired you to stand up against discrimination, what's one action you'll take this week? Share your commitment in the comments below and subscribe for more stories proving that ordinary people can create extraordinary change. Hit that notification bell and share this video with someone who needs to hear that justice is possible when we choose courage over silence. Together, we can build a world where everyone is judged by their character, not their appearance.